Hello, today we have a demo on track mats and masks and how they differentiate from one another in After Effects. Um, they're pretty powerful and I think you'll find them very helpful with your current project. So let's start with the mask because those might be more familiar to you coming from Illustrator and Photoshop. All right, so that's my lower layer. Notice I just have all three of these on this layer, on different layers, and I did all the type in After Effects because you do get some more possibilities if you do type in After Effects. Every one of these type layers has this text thing where you can add an animator to it. And if I scrub through here, you'll see that the word versus switches on a 3D plane. I actually did that with one of the animators built in here. Okay, more about that later though. Okay, so the mask. I'm going to click on the mask layer. I'm going to grab a basic primitive. I could use the pen tool if I wanted to. Whenever you click on a layer and you grab any one of these tools, like the pen tool or this ellipse, and you make a shape, it assumes you want to make a mask. And it does just that. So it drew me a mask and it put down a mask layer with that mask on it. And I can click on like mask shape. And at this point, I can move that thing around. So I'm sorry, mask path. I'll move it over here so it starts on the M. Cool. Now this is attached to the layer. It's on the mask layer because that's the layer I had selected when I started drawing. Okay, and I can actually add a keyframe to this mask path. And I could move down to the end here and move this over, and what will happen? It'll go through the word just like that. Now you'll see we're going to do something similar with the mat, but with the mask, the interesting about the mask is that let's say I want to move that word off the screen. Let's move it starting here. When that hits somewhere in the middle, let's just start moving it at the beginning. Okay, come on. So I'm going to hit P for the mask itself, the word, not the actual mask. And now it occurs to me that maybe I should have used different words. It seems so obvious to use these words at the beginning. But now I have that actual mask word, and I have the actual masks that are applied to it now. Oh well. I'm going to hit the P for the type layer, the mask type layer, set a keyframe, and somewhere down here, we will just move this whole word off the screen. Now, you can probably tell what's happening is that S is staying within that mask. So the mask is moving how it initially was from the M to the K, and the word is moving too. So it's going along with the word mask. Right? It's coming along. Doesn't matter what I do with this word. That mask is going to jump that hump with it and do exactly what I told it to do with its own keyframes. I'm going to take that last keyframe out. I don't like that. Also, I can still edit the mask itself. So here's the mask for the word mask. And let's say somewhere in the middle here, I want to do something with this. So let's do mask path. And then click on this guy. Doesn't seem to be doing anything right now. But there we go. You want to see the Bezier curve, so sometimes you have to deselect it and then select it again so you can grab the actual point. And what I wanted to do was just, play with the Bezier curves here, make like a water drop. But here's what's cool. I can animate any points on that line. I can even take the pen tool and put additional points on the line. And it's going to start with this shape I assigned it, which was the circle, and then move to that shape with keyframes and interpolation. And then at the very end, zoom out. Oops, too much. at the end, it is still going to be a circle. All right, so because that's where the keyframes lie. All right, so that's wonderful. I can modify that shape, that mask shape, all I want. And it will move along with whatever keyframes I set for the actual layer itself. All right, that was a mask. Okay, let's jump to track matte. Let's do the exact same thing, except instead of just grabbing this and drawing, because if I do that, it will make a mask. What I want to do to make a track matte is actually make a new shape layer. So I come up to layer and I say new, and I can do shape. I could even do a new solid if I wanted to make like a rectangular, but shape's easiest. And I can grab my ellipse again with the white fill. It doesn't matter because it's going to disappear. All right. And I'm going to hold down Shift to constrain, and once again, make a circle. And put the circle right in the middle of the frame. Okay. And of course, I made a shape layer. It's right there. I could retitle this and call it circle if I want, but it's going to be by default shape layer 1, because it's my first shape layer. All right, and notice it's above my word track matte, because that's the word that I want to matte. So I need the matte, which this is what I'm going to use as the matte above that layer. And then I can go to this thing that says track matte. If you don't see that, you got to hit this toggle switches modes, because it's officially a mode. We've seen all the blending modes over here that are like Photoshop, but track matte is hooked up to them. You can also, if you want to see both for whatever reason, you can also control click or right click here and go to columns and say modes. Either way, you just need to see this word TRK MAT track matte. And then I go to the layer that I want to put the track matte on, in this case the text track matte, and I say alpha matte shape layer 1. And if you forget that, don't worry, you can just go through these and see what they do. There's an inverse. There's a luma, but since that's not really going to be any different than the alpha in this case. All right, so I picked the alpha matte. All right, notice my shape layer again disappears. That doesn't mean I can't move it. I can just click on it, and then I can move it off to the side. And I can change the shape in general. I can do, basically, because it's on its own layer, I have all my basic contents. There's my ellipse. So my ellipse has some options I can change, although we don't see it, so it's not going to be that important in this, but it has basic transformation things as well. So I could change the scale of it and that sort of thing. I could also change the position of it, which is what I want to do here. So I'm going to hit P for position instead of keyframe, and we'll move down here some. It's on it stops right here, so this is probably where I want to put my last keyframe. And then I'm going to move it in the X dimension over here. So similar to what we did before. But in this case, here's the big difference. That's an independent layer. If I go to the word track matte and I hit position and I move this down, that matte's going to stay up there at the top. Right now, it's not going to do anything because I've moved the word outside of its boundaries. So I'm going to hit undo to put the word back up there. So if I move, I set keyframes and I move my word track matte, this shape layer 1, which is the actual track matte, is not going to move with it. Again, it's independent. So that is the big difference between the two. They look similar and they act similar. But sometimes you want the mask to move with the word. And sometimes you want a track matte that can be independent of the other layer that it's matting. Okay, so try those. And utilize those within your project. That would be awesome.